Welcome to the Blue is the New White podcast. This week we're continuing on with our facilities management series. If you don't know him from the industry, you certainly know him from the Ron and Don show, Mr. Don Turner. Don has been in this industry a very long time, and he's seen just about all there is to see. And in this episode, we'll be recapping the fantastic article that he wrote on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago about getting back to business in your restaurant. It's packed full of great technical recommendations, best practices, and my personal favorite, personal development strategies. There's nothing better than learning from those who have proven themselves time and time again, so pull up a seat, grab your headphones and notepad, and listen up. As always, thanks for listening to Blue is the New White, and remember, we do this for you, your success, and the success of those you care about. We don't have sponsors or monetize this show, so if you enjoyed this episode, please help support it by sharing, rating, and leaving a review. Thanks so much for listening, and enjoy the episode. Don, welcome to the show, man. I'm glad to have you, finally. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, I'm Don Turner, and to some people, they know me through a lot of different ways, but the rumor that I was dropped off by a passing or interstellar spacecraft that they kicked me off of on Earth is not true. I am. I started off in the industry as a kid with my father. He sold dairy plant equipment, so I learned about food equipment and also the sanitation necessary for dairy plants. Had my own print shop for a number of years going through college. Went to restaurants through International Dairy Queen and did everything there, from opening new stores, to selling insurance, to director of Alaska Hawaii operations. Went on to General Mills to be a facilities manager for a long time, director of facilities for two different companies, and moved on eventually to be picked up by Rare Hospitality to eventually become their director of facilities before they got bought out by Darden and finished my career back at General Mills / Darden. So there's the nuts of it.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you have a pretty storied career in facilities management and a lot of experience to go along with it. So I'm excited to talk to you about some stuff today. Obviously, as you know, the reason we decided to do this is because of that brilliant article you wrote on LinkedIn, and I know a lot of people have seen it, hope a lot of people have seen it. If you haven't seen it, go to Don's LinkedIn page and check out this latest article that he wrote all about facility management and what to do in the midst of this crisis to stay in the same, in the right state of mind, and also some actual technical steps to take to be more productive during this time. So I've read and reread this article probably 4 or 5 times now, because there's just so much information in it. So I just want to kind of, start from the top and let people know, number one, why you wrote it, and then number two, what it's about.
Well, as you know, that effectively I'm retired, so I haven't got anything useful to do. I really want to be of use at this point. I do a bunch of other things with the Ron and Don show, and also I've done a little bit of work for a few companies on the side. But this is really about giving back and saying, hey, we have things to get ready for and to do to get this industry back to where it belongs. And you personally, as a manager, have things that you could be looking at to get yourself ready for all the changes that are going to take place as a result of these last 6 weeks and what's going to be probably for the next 8 or 9 months of in and out of disease situations and or growing the business back and getting the economy back. So this industry will not be the same a month from now or a year from now as it was 6 weeks ago. And change happens all the time, but it's going to be greatly accelerated, and that's what the article is about, is, hey, how do we get back into being open, and then how do we work with the people we work with once we're back at it, And then how are you setting yourself up for success later on?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think there's just a ton of good information here. You start off with making sure that you set a plan for ensuring that people are healthy, which is obviously front and center right now. It's at the forefront of everybody's mind, and what's responsible for all of this. So you had laid out a few things that you can do, according to the CDC and all of that, for people, whether they be vendors or customers or employees coming into the restaurant, into the location. You want to go over some of those?
Well, again, whether or not this is realistic to do with everybody who comes into the restaurant, probably not. But is it realistic to talk to your vendors about it? Absolutely should. And this is whatever the viewer can do or reasonably thinks they can set up. It'd be a good idea, but the vendor should know on their people that they're sending out to fix your grill or your air conditioning or do anything that's going to come in contact with staff. Are they running a temperature over 100 degrees? Do they have a dry, persistent, unproductive cough? Have they lost the sense of smell? Have they been either presumed to or tested positive for having the virus? Do they have a shortness of breath? Those are questions that should be asked every day by the vendor of their staff and honestly answered. And quite frankly, the vendor's employees, if they are not taking their temperature every morning, then the vendor should be taking their temperature before they hand them the keys to the truck, because that is a huge initial indicator. And if it's over 100 degrees, well, guess what? You get to stay home today. Congratulations. But you have 40, 30, in some cases less, some cases more, employees that you're directly responsible for that could be coming in contact, and you don't know where their hands or their tools have been. And, yes, you can ask them to wash their hands the second they come in the door. But if the tools are dirty, or if the bag that they're carrying is dirty or whatever, it's just one of those things. I think a lot of gloves should be used in the process now by the vendors, which they never used them before.
Right. They wore it almost like a badge of honor, right? The grease on the hands. And
yeah, I never shook a plumber's hand after noon.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So, but what about, because I know that there's a lot of service companies out there that, let's say they allow their technicians to take their vans home at the end of every day. So the chances of them actually coming into the office, maybe 2-3 times a week, do you think self-reporting is enough to facilitate this? Or do you think that it needs to be regulated, like, hey, all the vans come to the office, let's go through these procedures and then disperse to your call? I'm just curious.
Well, let's be honest here. You have vendors or you have employees that you trust implicitly and some that you trust mostly. You got to leave it to the person who's in charge. But you have, as a facilities manager, I'm going to put it in your hands as the head of a vendor that I'm holding you responsible. If your guy gets sick and several of my people get sick, you're the one I'm coming after, and it's going to affect our relationship. And I have to put you on notice. Do your job.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So then let's move on in the article, because we do talk a lot about the safety procedures, and I think, and I hope, I should say, by this point everybody's familiar enough with the CDC guidelines and everything like that, that they're smart enough to implement these procedures company-wide. And exactly like you said, we all have to kind of look out for each other. I have to look out for my employees just like you have to look out for yours. And yeah, so hopefully that's been followed. You mentioned that companies have suspended a lot of maintenance work, and one of the things that you recommended you do is to get out your calendar and figure out exactly when we need to schedule certain items, hood cleaning, HVAC PMs, carpet cleaning, window cleaning, etc. Grease traps, obviously. And some of the reports I've heard is that people are continuing their grease trap maintenance, which I happen to think is smart, during this time. I know we're trying to pinch pennies, but you know what happens when those things solidify, right? So, but how, if this were you, I mean, how would you know when to kick this stuff back into gear? When to schedule this? It's kind of up in the air right now, isn't it?
Well, first of all, there have been some companies that have continued their maintenance program. Some of them have canceled part of it. I am so sorry.
Oh, no problem. You're a popular guy, man. You can't help that.
I'm on the show. Kill it, okay? Sorry, that was my partner on the Ron and Don show. Sorry about that. You want to get back into it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, we were talking about just figuring out when you needed to schedule these things.
You know when your last hood cleaning was. You know how much you have done in takeout business or none at all. Then you can project out reasonably when your hood cleaning is going to need to be started again, because you have elongated it more than likely. So far as PMs, if you've stayed open for takeout business, again, you're not running in front of the house air conditioners as much, but you're still running the exhaust systems, the makeup air in the kitchens. So you may have to do a partial PM and then go back onto it at a later date for the full PM. There's all kinds of variables here, and you have to take them all into consideration. As you noted, grease traps, if you didn't clean them out before you closed completely, if you did, and you're up north, then you're probably going to have to get out the pickaxe and the shovel and the hazmat suit and get in somebody shovel it out, and because it will have solidified, especially if you're doing a lot of hamburgers or beef and there's a lot of tallow that's gone down into the grease trap. No, you can't do a dump of grease cutter into it to get it loosened up. It does not work. You can steam clean it, but that takes a lot more effort than it's worth. All the other areas, are the drains messed up from you doing the takeout business or not? It's all a value judgment on what was your percentage of normal sales that you did in takeout. The carpet cleaning, yeah, you probably suspended that completely, but you really need to get that started before they get in there, because you don't want that musty smell that a carpet having sat for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, or even longer. It's got an awful lot of biological growth in there, and more than likely, you need to get a high temperature extraction. Check with your carpet manufacturer to make sure that's correct. But a high temperature extraction will do a much better job of removing a lot of that than just a shampoo or a dry capture method. It all depends on your carpet and how it's adhered to the surface and how you've got it down. So yes, it's the calendar, knowing when and what you've been doing since, and when you're going to open will dictate what the rest of it is, and then you can sort of get it all set up so it can work automatically.
That makes sense. So I'm curious because, I've talked to a lot of facility managers now, and the verdict kind of seems split. Some of these services, these maintenance services, you and I both know are pretty essential. And some of them are almost viewed as, I don't want to say electoral, but, a luxury item, if you will. For instance, HVAC and refrigeration PMs. You ask me, a provider, I'm going to tell you you absolutely need to have it. But and a lot of facility managers see the value in it as well. But it might be one of those things that, maybe we could squeak by for another 6 months to a year without having this done. And reports are about 50% of the people I've talked to are saying they are planning on, delaying some of these services until they can recoup what they've lost in the midst of all this. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I know they want to conserve cash flow, and that's the whole genesis of that.
Yeah.
And they conserve cash flow by cutting maintenance, cutting capital expenditures, capital replacement, infrastructure work, all kinds of stuff. And matter of fact, I'm going to do a little self-promotion. Yesterday, we did a show on the effects of cutting spending on infrastructure and capital, which will be out a week from tomorrow, a week from Friday, rather. And it actually follows a study done by the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Studies on schools and what happened to them for cutting back on capital expenditures in the big turn back a few years ago. So we did it based off of a lot of information. But R&M expenditures for PMs in particular, yeah, you can let it go, but boy, I'll tell you what, you better have that extra set of belts sitting up there, throw on in a hurry, because it won't be on the truck, obviously. The filters still have to be clean. I don't care where you are, if you're in Arizona or particularly further north where the pollen's just hitting now, those evaporators are going to be dirty, but the condensers are going to be filthy. The outside filters, the primary filters on your air conditioner are going to get plugged. So yes, you can avoid it, but if you choose to avoid it, you're going to run much higher energy costs, put an extra strain on the compressors because they're going to run higher head pressures, and you're going to end up spending that money more than likely in repairs and emergency service calls. And the last thing that you want to do is on a Friday night on, let's say, Father's Day or Mother's Day weekend coming up, and not have a comfortable environment for your guests and staff. The cost to replace staff is huge. It's actually expensive than bringing one guest into the restaurant for marketing because you have such a long training period. You get ticked off head line cook, you got a problem. Yes, they're out there, but you got to train a new one. And you're at the same time trying to work with the reduced management staff, reduced hourly staff, trying to pull back those cash flow dollars so you can use it for marketing. You got to be real careful how you pick and choose and be judicious. And I know that they don't go up on the roofs, but maybe this is the time that once every 2 weeks you go up on the roof and shoot a picture of your filters and shoot a picture of your condensers and send it off to your PM contractor and say, hey, can we go a little bit longer?
That's a great idea. That's a valid point. There's no reason, and I know we talk a lot about relationships, so there's no reason you can't have that type of relationship with with your PM provider. Go up there and shoot a picture and say, hey, and then if you do have a good relationship with them, they're going to be honest with you. They want to see you succeed as bad as you want to see them succeed. And I happen to think you're right. It's a pay now or pay later situation, but either way, you're going to pay whether it's a HVAC PM or any other hot appliance maintenance, any other maintenance service. If you choose to forego it for any amount of time, they're done for a reason. So it's just a matter of pick your poison, right?
I use a slightly enlarged version of what you said. Pay me now or pay me later, but with an IRS twist. Pay me now or pay me later with interest and tax. It's going to cost you more later on than it does now. And when we talk about capital and infrastructure replacement, yes, you're going to pay later with interest and tax because you're going to have increased repair costs and energy costs and all that kind of stuff as a result, and ancillary problems with staff and guests. But then you still have that replacement cost, and it's going to be more expensive in many cases because you've done other damages to other parts of the restaurant. So you're going to pay me now or pay me later with interest and penalty, and you still got to spend the money to replace it. So it is a big conundrum. It is an enigma, I guess is the proper term, how you massage everything, and you want to have as much money as possible for marketing. You also have to have enough money to make sure that the guests, when they walk in that door, are going to want to come back.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree with that more, and I like your analogy a whole lot better than mine because it makes a whole lot more sense. It really does. It puts that emphasis that's needed on it, right? Because you're absolutely right with that. It does. It ends up costing more in the long run, and that's the point, So, all right, moving on from maintenance. Let's keep going down the list here. You said that this is a great time to review your contracts, review your contractors for good service, quality service, and cost. Be able to use this time wisely to be productive in your craft with what you're doing. And then the part that I liked is you had mentioned to be specific in your expectations, which I think is imperative. So do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, the whole issue there, it's slightly detrimental to your side a little bit, but you are going to lose a couple customers in this whole process that just don't either make it through, or they just don't have the cash flow to be successful, and that they are doing maintenance and repairs, and they're just going to skate by as long as possible, and you're just not going to have them for a customer for a long time, and you may choose to end it because you don't want to work on things that are now hazardous, that could a fryer thermostat that no longer works properly could cause a fire, that kind of stuff. So the vendors are going to lose individual customers, and this is a time where the vendors don't want to lose you if you're a good customer. So they are willing to negotiate to keep everything flowing for them, for their business and their staff, once the government still quits throwing money back out through the payroll program, which they will eventually do it. That's going to come to an end. They want to keep their staff. There's a shortage of blue-collar workers. Gee, I don't know where I've heard that before. A fabulous book I think I once read.
Oh.
And to lose them to their direct vendor. Now, if you are, as a facilities manager, very specific in what you want done and the results you're expecting, you want those two to match up, and the vendor can help you match those two up, saying, this is what I want to have done, this is what I want the result to be. And if they're like this, they can say, well, you're going to have this done as well, or maybe we can do it this way and get there. And this is what I'm going to pay. How do we get there? And I know you were getting paid this much more, but I can't afford it right now. How do we get through this period together where you can make a little money, maybe not as much as you were before. We can make this equipment last as long as reasonably possible to its useful life. And we have the cash flow for our staff, for our marketing, for the cleaning we need to do, and all the other things that are coming, so that we can work as a partner. And it is matching your expectations for results, specifically what you think has to happen as a minimum, and taking advantage of the economic condition as best you can to maximize the return back to your company for the work that you're getting. Get as much as you can for that buck without putting the vendor out of business, because that is a trusted person.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's very well stated. I talk a lot, and even in my Riff talk that you saw at RIFMA, I talk about aligning objectives. That's my big thing, is aligning objectives, and that holds true even in a situation like this, because objectives are going to change. In circumstances of this nature, objectives are going to change, and that's just the way that it is. And if you try to resist it, you're going to strain that relationship. You want to make sure that you're still aligning those objectives from both standpoints. Facility management and vendors. The new objectives have to be discussed. And yeah, the vendor may make a little less money than before if that's the new objective of the facility manager, which is fine. I mean, it's better than not having the job, right? And as long as it's beneficial for both parties, you can move forward. And then who's to say it can't be readdressed in a year or less, maybe, depending on how strong business comes back. I mean, this is all It all boils back down to relationships, right?
And this is the time right now where you have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Once those doors are fully open again, you're going to be buried in emergencies and other situations. So aligning all that right now, not 2 weeks from now, right now, that will make a difference in your workflow in the future and your value to the company that's paying you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as soon as you get done listening to this podcast, you better call up your vendors, call up your customers. You better start that line of communication. Cool. Well, and that's really great. We'll touch on real quick before we get into the next section, because I'm excited to talk about the next section in here that you discuss about, personal changes you can make. But just so everybody has a full understanding of the article, you talk about enticing your guests to return to the facility, once everything opens back up. And you list a ton of stuff here, some of which probably is thought about, but let's be honest, things were closed down so fast. I don't know if everybody made a physical list of things that are going to have to be checked and upon reopening. So I'm glad to see that you did that here in this article. You mentioned things like lot striping, potholes being repaired, landscaping, takeout banners removed, windows cleaned, signs fixed, all of this kind of stuff. So, what's the thought process behind that in this?
Well, first of all, the department's going to go out there and entice your people back with either price offs, name recognition, maybe coupons, who knows what, but they're going to be heavily out there to get people in the door. You want them to not spin off your driveway before they even get in there. At night, if the signs and exterior lighting and the parking lot lightings are not fully lit, somebody down the street is going to be. And they have their marketing department going full blast on as well. If your parking lot is a test course for 8 all-terrain vehicles, you need to fix them. It means get those potholes filled. If you need to stripe the lot, stripe the lot. You don't have to put a new overlay down or anything like that. Just get it so that people don't twist their ankle walking across to get to the front door. Get the weeds mowed, get them down under control, pull the dead plants out of your landscaping, prune it back so it's not a jungle, get the windows cleaned up so that they sparkle a little bit. Do the things to get the people to the door and in the door. Now, once they're in the door, you have several things working for you. Yeah, the carpet may be really worn in spots. You can see a little white thread showing in some areas, but if it's securely down and you have thoroughly cleaned that carpet, it won't smell. If you've thoroughly cleaned that bar, it won't smell. If you've done the same thing to the restrooms, you make that restaurant smell clean. And I have a mother and girlfriends and all that kind of stuff that if they walk in the front door and it doesn't smell right, they turn around and say no. And they're in charge to make the ladies want to eat there. Now, if you have a booth with a rip, do what you can to not seat that booth. If you have a roof leak, fix it. Do the things that are going to make the experience from a facility standpoint positive. A cheery, pleasant staff, good food at a fair price, they'll come back. The cheery, pleasant staff are going to make it so they can overlook the tattered condition because they know what you've been through for the last 6 months, and by the time they get in many places, or 6 weeks and 8 weeks, 10 weeks before the doors get fully reopened someplace. So they'll overlook some of the tattered look as long as it's immaculately clean, cheery staff, great service, great food at a good price. The price-value relationship is enough. The marketing got them in there. You got them to the door. Now it's their job to keep them coming back. And that's the idea. Get them in the house, and the house is clean. The staff will do the rest, and you now have the cycle started. If they spin off or they have a bad experience in the restaurant, some of them are not going to come back. And you've wasted all that marketing for that one trip.
Yep. And that's so funny you close with that. As you were talking, I was writing down marketing gets them there, facilities and operations keep them there. And lo and behold, that's exactly what you said. And it's true. It's absolutely right. It's two sides of the same coin, and they both need to be sharp. And that's what hopefully everyone's going to be doing in this time to, and as long as they read your article and listen to this podcast, they should be perfectly fine. All right, but I want to get into the part that I really enjoyed, even more so than the technical aspect of it. The part that I really enjoyed of this article was the personal side, because I think that's where it starts. There's a lot of people right now that are kind of down on themselves. Maybe they were furloughed or laid off or just completely fired. And there's a lot of negativity surrounding that. Business decisions or not, it affects people. Especially since most of the country was cruising right along, this year, and maybe on track to have the best year yet, both personally and professionally, just because, everything was pretty great for the most part, and then it was completely derailed in a day, and that can really do a number on people's psyche, if you will, So you ask the question, what are you doing for yourself? And one part here that I have highlighted is you have this short time to affect a change in your world, which I really liked. And I think that people need to remember that, you're in control of your situation right now, and whatever you do next is going to shape your future. So, first off, what have you been doing in this time, and what do you recommend others do?
You jumped to the end of my article there.
I'll circle back.
Well, that's no problem. I even say that this sounds like I'm preaching when I do this. But yes, I have been doing a few things myself during this time period. First of all, I've got a whole series of new shows that I'm working on for the Ron and Don Show that'll be much more technical than we've ever done. And I know an awful lot about the topic to begin with. But there was always a few things that, well, how does that really work? And I've been doing an awful lot of research on it to make sure that I have earned the right to speak to those topics. And matter of fact, I've just finished the outline for 9 of the 12 episodes that we hope to be filming shortly. And getting all the backup visuals that will go with it. So that's taken a lot of time. I've written a couple of articles, and you're referring to one right now, which have taken some time. I'm not a very good writer, and you'll tell that by when you read this, because I speak and write the same way in sort of a helter-skelter method, and it works better speaking than it does when you're trying to. Oh, you'll have to forgive my lack of use of proper English, or my foreign language is English. I don't speak any other language. And I also have one of the mentioned in here is to take care of yourself. And I've been grossly overweight for a number of years. And I've taken off a little more than 25 pounds in the last 5 weeks. And I've been at a plateau for the last week and a half. But I can feel that, okay, now I'm ready to start trying to knock it down. And I want to get, before the middle of May, I want to be more than 10% down in my weight. And that's the goal. And I'm going to get there. And then I want to work on 20%, all that kind of stuff. I'm not like you. I'm not young. I can't lose weight by cutting my hair. And then, it's got to be the old fashioned way of being my father used to tell me the best way to lose weight is to do a push-up at the table. So that's pretty much what I've had to do. So that's what I have been doing. Getting rid of as many bad habits as I can during this period. Well, I've done a little bit of that, not much. Improving my educational status. Well, I've done that, but I'm not. But I really recommend that people that don't have a CFRP, that are restaurant people, that they go get it. And in a couple of weeks, they can read the study material if they're not working. they can actually read all the study material and then maybe take another week to finalize it. And they can earn their CFRP between now and the time they either get working or shortly thereafter. That has a very positive effect on your career. Your current employer will love it, or if they don't, then get a new current employer who does. Because you being better can only help them be better. I mean, you can lead the way on that. Or it could be a lead, or it could be whatever it is. Go get some more education. Learn things that you don't already know. Go find an organization like RIFMA who have mentors, or you can become a mentor, whichever you want to do. If you have something, you have a weakness, go ask for some help to learn about that weakness. If you have an expertise, write an article. Get known in the industry as an expert. Develop yourself. You know, sitting on the couch playing with the kids is wonderful. Limited. Do it. They deserve it. You deserve it. But don't do it all the time. Get yourself a little advanced efforts. Your personal finance, get into it in detail and figure out where your money is really going. Set up a proper budget and set yourself up for failure. Set your future success so you'll have money when you need it in the future, and particularly when you get to be an old guy like me. So you have some money to spend and you aren't in penury, as the British would say. I think there were some more things in there that I didn't hit. Work on a healthier lifestyle.
You got pretty close to hitting all of them. I'll say I got them all highlighted here, and you must have written this article or something. I don't know. But
get into the middle of your life and figure out how you can make your life better, and that, by the way, will make your family's life better. Yeah,
couldn't agree more with that statement. Now, I have a question for you, and I think you're a little bit old school, so I don't know how you're going to respond to this. I mean that as a compliment, by the way. But listen, some people, because this is all great information, right? I mean, and this is stuff that people should look at this, they should read this, listen to this, and say, yeah, I know I should do all of those things. But finding the motivation sometimes when you're stuck in a rut, can be very, very difficult, even though you know that these things are imperative to your future success and development as a human being. Do you have any advice to those out there that are just stuck, that know that they should do this stuff, but just can't find the motivation to do it?
Well, depression is a problem, and that's what you're saying. So people are stuck in, and I get depressed just like everybody else. One of my old methods, it's old school, I had a couple of wind-up alarm clocks. And I would set them around the house for 2-hour intervals. And if I wasn't working on something, when that alarm clock went off, I had to go get it, turn it off, set it for maybe much later in the day because I had other ones set. And I had to go back to whatever it was I was trying to get accomplished that day. And then 2 hours later, another alarm clock would go off and I'd go get it. That would be my chance to get up and leave what I was working on, get a break, rewind it up and set it, and then go back to work. But sometimes, like I said, I might not be there. I may have gone down to the kitchen to get, I don't drink coffee, but get something to drink, a Diet Coke or whatever, and got derailed. Well, the alarm clock will then bring me back. There's all kinds of ways to help keep you motivated. Your network of friends. Have your friends call you at various intervals of the day and make them tell you or say to you, how's your progress on this today? Well, I'm not going to delay you any longer. I want to make sure you're healthy and get back at it. You can use your social network that way. There's all kinds of ways to help you not be depressed. And as you get into whatever one that's you're working on, you will get of success flowing through you, and you will want to keep it going because it's a good feeling and you feel good about yourself.
Yep.
Be stuck. only makes you feel worse all the time. To the time where, you actually end up hurting yourself, like I did with my weight. After I retired, I was stuck for a little while. Okay, I feel better. Now, I haven't taken off nearly enough weight to feel better, but I feel better because I'm moving.
Yeah. No, that's really great advice. I can relate to that so much because, look, I mean, everybody gets in ruts from time to time, right? It's not, and some deeper than others, but we all have felt that feeling of being stuck at some point, whether it be for 5 minutes or 5 hours, 5 months, 5 years. Like I said, it varies, but you're absolutely right in that once you do take that first step and you do start to accomplish something, anything really for that matter, you immediately start to feel better. I used to do this thing where I make to-do lists. I love making to-do lists. And the problem is, I've got a lot usually going on at one time. So I'll make a to-do list and it'll be, 2 pages long, and I'll make the whole list, right? And I'll look at it and I'll say, holy crap, look at that list. So I'll actually start putting some things on the list that I know I already did just so I could check it off. And just that visual of 2 or 3 of the 50 things that I have to do being checked at least points me in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
I have had facilities managers that went out and did audits or inspections of restaurants. And I would tell them before they left, I want to see no more than 20 items on that list. You have to prioritize. And they would go out and they write a 40-page list or 40-item or 60-item list. And then they go to the next restaurant and do the same thing. And they would never get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
5 things on your to-do list. That's it. Pick your top 5. Have them on a separate piece of paper completely from all the other things you may want to do. And work on those 5 only. And let's say something else comes in as critical. Well, okay, you write a new list with only 5 lists, and that's included. But if you look at that long list, yes, you will be depressed. You've got to keep it reasonable for success. If you set yourself up for failure, guess what you're going to get?
Yep, that's absolutely right. So we pretty much wrapped up the article, but I want to keep talking if you got some time left. Because I'm curious. I love to ask facility managers this question, and I know you've probably listened to some of my other podcasts, so you might know what question I'm about to ask. But what do you love most about what you do?
I wrote something recently in a LinkedIn item about service. Doesn't matter what service you're providing, or running if you're working in a sewage treatment plant, if you're serving food to guests at a table, if you're driving a dump truck, you're all providing service. In your industry, technical service, whatever. I like to be part of a team that has a goal that we can achieve together in providing service that is something special. Now, to work in service, which facilities managers are providing a service to restaurant management, my little thing for facilities managers' objectives are: 1, to make the restaurant comfortable and safe for the guests and staff; 2, to provide a safe and pleasant environment. Make the restaurant management. I got to start that over again. I'm sorry.
No problem.
To make the restaurant management's job easier; 2, to provide a comfortable environment for the guests and the staff; and 3, to make those first 2 things cost effective. So we're providing a service to the restaurant management and their team. You're providing a service as well. If you and your team push your egos down and work towards that goal together, you'll be maybe not rewarded financially a lot, but you'll be emotionally rewarded by the success. I like to be able to be of service to now other facility managers. What do I know that I had to learn the hard way by trial and failure and trial and failure? Oh, that's how you do it. I want to provide that so they don't have to go through that. I want to be of service to them as well as anyone else who was lost in this egg up here. That's what drives me. That success of us together being of service, and then ultimately to the guests who come in and buy the food or whatever your particular end result is. Drives me. That's what makes me happy. It's what gets my juices flowing.
Yeah, and it's amazing, isn't it? Because in the service industry, like you mentioned, that's basically, that should be one of everybody's objectives, right? So we have this commonality between all of us that we're in this industry to serve, and that whether it's my company serving your company or just one-on-one me, as an individual serving you as an individual, by having a conversation or you by advising facility managers, I think that's a really, really great answer. And, it just goes to show how rewarding, this type of career can be, and you're a true testament to it because you've been in this industry for a long time and you obviously clearly enjoy it, have a passion for it. You're still doing it to this day, on your show and everything else. It seems like this is your calling, right? Would you agree?
It is. I've grown into it over the years, physically and mentally. But yes, I do love it. And I want to put a shout out because what we've been talking about is being of service. And part of being of service is suppressing the ego a little bit, but it's also being honest with everybody else, including yourself. And you had a great speech at RIFMA on integrity. And being of service is having the integrity to say, I messed up. And I think I got the right answer. Why don't you join me and we're going to get this right? Or I'm sorry that didn't work out well for you. It looks like you may have chosen the wrong path. How can I help you get this back on course? Working together and being honest, not hiding something, not bragging about it too much. Yes, when you get awards and all that kind of stuff, it's a big thing. But it's the self-satisfaction that we did this and I was part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I really do, because it's so true, and it's one of those things. The awards, they feel good in the moment, but when you take a step back and you look at the grand scale and see how you really made a difference in your industry, and what that trickles down to in the industry, that's the whole reason that I do what I do with this show, and even with my company and everything else, is because you can step back and physically, sometimes you can't see the difference in a day, sometimes you can't see the difference in a week, but if I look 10 years ago compared to now, even 5 years ago compared to now, that's when you can see and be proud of what you've done along the way. So that leads me to my next question. What are you most proud of that you've done in this industry?
In the industry?
Yeah, in the industry.
Well, of course, surviving is always a nice thing. A number of years ago, I took on one of the major manufacturers in the construction industry and challenged them. Totally on my own. And didn't have approval of my employer or anything else. And I just went to him and said, this product you're selling to us, it says it's for restaurants, but it doesn't last. And you're supposed to be the best in the industry. And they were. They had the best reputation. Why is it that this is failing so completely? In just over a year, it's gone. In some areas, we get 18 months. In some other areas, we may get 3 or 4 years. What is the problem? And they looked at me. Of course, I was working for one of the major brands that is high volume. And they said, well, that's not meant for you. That's meant for mom and pops. It says on your packaging and your advertising, restaurants. Well, no, you need this. And through the whole process, that this was a whole lot more expensive, of course, lot more durable, of course, and a whole lot harder to install. And I wrote a whole program on how to do that, took it back to them, got it certified, got them to warranty it, and I kind of changed that little part of the business, both for new construction and for replacements afterwards. And there have been some other innovations that have come after that that have lessened it, but it made a huge difference in the R&M of the restaurants that we started putting it in. And that my company gave me a Brilliance Award for that and some other things that year, and that's a super high honor. You don't get an individual Brilliance Award from that company. It's rare, okay? So I got an award for it. I didn't know I was going to get an award for it. Part of why I got it. And I'm pleased that I was able to move the technology forward so that we wouldn't be spending all that money in this area every single year. So, and in the industry, that's what I'm probably proudest of. Of course, there's lots of things I've done outside the industry for fun, but
let's talk about that. How about let's pick one thing outside the industry that you're most proud of. I'm curious, just personally. Oh, I know. I'm asking you to pick one thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna go there. Okay. Good try though.
All right.
You get a gold star.
All right, cool. I'll take it. No, that's great though. It truly is a testament to the industry and what it can provide you.
I guess what I could say is the Ron and Don Show. I'm exceedingly proud.
There you go.
And that we were able to make it into what it is now. And I think if we get permission to keep going, it can only get better for the next year, and then we'll see. At that point in time, I'll be over 70. I'm 70 now. It'll be time to hand it off to somebody else like you or somebody else to carry it forward.
Well, I'm really excited to see how that show progresses. I love watching those episodes. What great insight from both sides of the industry. We talk about that bridging the gap, the communication gap, the relationship gap, everything between facility management and vendors and contractors, and you guys are doing it front and center, man. And I admire it. And as you know, we got to sit down at RIFMA, both you and Ron and I, and actually have an intelligent conversation off camera, which I love having too. And it's a great show, and I hope that everybody listening to this show will check it out if they don't know what it is or haven't seen it yet. The Ron and Don Show. Can you where's that air? Can you tell people?
RIFMA Online was several backslashes and stuff. RIFMAonline.com / Ron and Don Show, all one word, is one place. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn page sends it out. It's out there for you to try. It wasn't my idea originally. I was asked to write a book, and I said it'd be wonderful insomnia curing material. Because, yes, I can write a book, but who would want to read it on facilities management? It would put you to sleep. And they said, well, what about? And that was my partners that came up with the idea on that. And I have been blessed to be part of it.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to that show in the description of this podcast as well, so people know where to find it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Greatly appreciate what you're doing for the industry. So, before we wrap it up, Don, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience before we go?
Yeah, a couple things real quickly. For the facilities managers in the restaurant industry, go to RIFMA online and get started on your CFRP if you haven't, and sign up to be a mentor if you want to be, or sign up to be someone to be mentored. Get involved with RIFMA. RIFMA, as you know, and I greatly appreciate your involvement, is an extremely valuable tool for us. And get involved. It's worth your time, and then make it work for you as a result of you working for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that, Don, thank you so much for your time today. I think people are going to really have a lot of takeaways from this episode. And why don't you tell people where they can find you? And like I said, I'll put the Ron and Don show in the link in the description, to this show, and we'll get on with it.
Well, I'm just my email is only. I don't have a website, but my email is datur.now@gmail.com. It's first part of my last name with my initials in front of it, and my little company is Dat Now anyway. So, but that's pretty much dead with this economy. So, but I really appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to, shall we say, pontificate.
Well, anytime, Don, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. Maybe we can get both you and Ron on the show, and have a nice little discussion between the three of us.
That's your pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Thank you.